In part 2 of our interview with Ambassador Friedman, he discusses how the Trump administration dealt with the Palestinian Authority and his relationship with evangelical Christians. Going to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, you again made history and changed the whole paradigm. How did you approach that and had the Peace to Prosperity plan that came out last January?
I was asked by a reporter from the New York Times why we were punitive towards the Palestinian. I said, we were never punitive to the Palestinians. He said, well, isn't cutting off funding a punishment? And I said, absolutely not. Our policy towards the Palestinians was we demand a minimal level of accountability. That's it, accountability. The same accountability we would expect from our own people, American citizens, or from the Israeli government, just accountability. We're giving you money, don't use it to pay terrorists. Does that sound like a punishment? How would a US taxpayer dollar ever be used to pay a terrorist? I mean, it's unthinkable. We said, you want to have more autonomy? Well, you have to have religious freedom. You have to have a basic system of human rights. You can't pull people out of their homes who are accused of brokering a sale of a house from an Arab to a Jew. You can't pull them out of their houses and torture them in the middle of the night, which was an experience I had with a dual Palestinian-American citizen. You need to up your game to the point where you are accountable to your own people and you're accountable to your donors. And that to us wasn't punishment. We're going to give money to UNRWA, which creates vile textbooks that foment hatred against Israel, that does absolutely nothing to relieve the suffering of Palestinians, perpetuates their refugee status indefinitely, when every other refugee organization in the world is geared towards resettling refugees. UNRWA does just the opposite. We're going to fund that? No, because we insist upon minimal accountability to international standards of behavior. That was a major shift of the Trump administration, but it was not intended to be punitive at all. And I think ultimately it will help the Palestinian people because it makes their leadership more accountable to them more than anybody else.
One thing you've done during the past 4 years is work with a lot of Christian evangelical Zionists. Describe that situation, that relationship that has grown over the last 4 years.
Well, it's been a great joy because I didn't really know the community well before I got this job. First of all, the Christian evangelical community is enormously important to the relationship, the U.S.-Israel relationship, because there are far more Christian Zionists in America than there are Jewish Zionists. So just in terms of the democratic process in America, it's great to have so many friends on American soil who believe that it's in the U.S. interests to really support Israel. Separate from that, I really have made so many great friends, people who really I think really believe in the centrality of Israel, not just to their faith, but to their values. People who share my view. I mean, I'm completely aligned with the Christian community on this, that the values that make America great are the values that came out of Jerusalem, that's where we're sitting now. Isaiah says, out of Zion shall go forth the law. The great values, the great principles that informed our founding fathers, when they said that in the Declaration of Independence that certain unalienable rights were endowed by our Creator. Well, how do they know that? They knew that by reading the Bible. And where did the Bible come from? It came from right here. So I think that, to me, as I see the United States going through a very difficult time, my own view is that we've become too untethered to our foundational values. That's I think we need to reconnect. And I'm not suggesting people necessarily become deeply religious, although I think that has a real intrinsic value in terms of anyone's personal growth. But just understand, where we came from. We came from a common set of values rooted in the Bible. And the more we can study that and understand that, I think we'll see how, all the things we're fighting over now are relatively trivial. And they ought to be easy to overcome. We ought to be able to come together based upon the roots of our nation, which again are deeply rooted in the Bible. And I think the Christian evangelical community has a role to play there, because they are such a large community. I think deeply respected within the United States.
So Ambassador Friedman, thanks for your time, and thanks for being with us on Jerusalem Dateline.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.